welcome to this Week 10 edition of the LL Football Preview Show here on GameTimePA.com. I'm John Buffone, and with me is Andrew Callahan of the Lebanon Daily News. Pat Huggins, once again, not with us for non-sinus-related issues this week, but we will trudge on without him.
We will.
Andrew, we got 4 matchups we're going to talk about for Week 10. This is the final week of the regular season, the last chance for teams to get a shot at the section title or, sneak into the district playoffs as well. So a lot riding on a lot of these games. Let's start with a Section 1 matchup between Manheim Township and Hempfield. Neither one of these teams look like they're going to get a piece of the Section 1 title, with both of them losing to Wilson. But there's a lot of pride at stake here. There's positioning in the district playoff picture at stake here. And this should just be a really good game. This game is at Hempfield. Both these teams have the ability to score a lot of points. Both these teams have shown flashes throughout the year. Hempfield has a very good defense. They're at home here. How do you see this one shaking out?
I like Hempfield here, but I think, as you mentioned, it's going to be a very good game. And I think the biggest benefit, as much as you do have the jockeying for position in the district playoffs, is that you essentially get to play a playoff game before the real thing starts. And that'll tell you where you need to shore up in certain areas. Township last week really laying it on McCaskey 62-6, reverting back to form after a tough home loss to Wilson, whereas the Black Knights are going to be at home. You've got senior night, everything is going to be a send-off for them, and their really last go-ahead. So I like the Black Knights at home. I think it's going to be that good back-and-forth game. But whoever it shakes out, neither team is really going to feel that much of a loss given where they want to be heading into the postseason, and now it's just a matter of playing their best football.
And if you want to, take a really mathematical look at this without really, looking at the games, you can say, well, let's say, how did they both do against Wilson? And you see Hempfield held close, had a lot of chance to win that game. Mm-hmm. Township, not so much. Now, if you want to take a very simplistic approach to that, you say, Hempfield would have the edge. I don't think that's going to play too big of a factor there, but this should be a great game in Landisville. Like we said before, plenty of position to be jockeyed for, as well as, some pride in the section as well. Let's move on to a Section 3 game. Northern Lebanon already has a share of the Section 3 title. They're looking to try to get it outright with a game against Columbia. They should be heavy favorites in this game, unless they're overlooking the Crimson Tide as they're going into maybe looking towards district playoffs, or maybe you see this as a trap game, but I don't see it going that way. How do you see it?
No, whichever way you want to approach this, going from a single A team versus a triple A team, reigning section champion versus a team that this year only has a win over a winless Ephrata club. It's really just a tough matchup for the Crimson Tide. And Northern Lebanon, they've been talking about back-to-back since I visited with them in August, and I think they're going to be able to accomplish that. They're going to set the tone early and ride the big boys up front, that have carried them throughout this entire season. And you saw it most recently against Donegal. They reeled off 20 straight points because they were able to hold that strength in the trenches in the fourth quarter when it mattered most. Isaac Wenger, of course, has been leading the way for the Vikings offensively, also playing a pretty good safety for them. And for me, the odds are so much in favor of the Vikings. And when they've got that motivation to clinch back-to-back section titles last year, their first since '91, I think this is going to be a Northern Lebanon victory and a championship again for the Vikings, who should be headed to the district playoffs.
We'll see if the Knights can go back-to-back Section 3 titles on Friday. Let's stay in Section 3, where the title stakes aren't really at hand here, but there's some district playoff implications here, and some historical relevance as well. That's when Pequea Valley meets up with AnnvilleCleona. AnnvilleCleona already pretty packed in the middle of the Class AA playoffs. Pequea Valley jockeying for that last spot in AA as well. Also, Pequea Valley going for their first winning record in school history. They are an overtime loss away. Yeah. They lost to York County Tech in Week 1 in overtime. They'd already have a winning record if it wasn't for that. Now they have a chance to actually clinch that winning record if they can beat the Little Dutchman. The odds are against them to do that, but there's still a lot at stake in this game.
There is. It's not too different from the discussion we just had about Township and Hempfield. Just down a couple of sections and down a couple of different levels. You mentioned these teams are back towards the middle of the pack, towards the bottom of the rankings for the AA district current power rankings. But I think it's going to be an even game. Lots of pride on the line. You want to be playing your best football, and it's a matter of putting that best foot forward when you can expect a similar level of competition when everything is on the line next week. So for now, I think you're going to get a really good football one, maybe one of the best of the final week, which, we have one more matchup that we haven't even touched upon, could be the best game of them all.
We're going to talk about, that's the big daddy of them all in Week 10. That would be a Section 2 showdown between Manheim Central and Solanco. The Barons taking the trip to Quarryville, hoping to get a piece of the Section 2 title. The Gold Mules already secured a piece of the Section 2 title last week with a win over Cocalico, 35-14. They ran for over 400 yards. This is a good football team. They just execute so well. Their coach, Anthony Cox, He'll be the first one to tell you he's a disciplinarian. He is in everybody's face. He wants everybody to do their job at the entire time. There's no nonsense with this team whatsoever. And they run this option veer offense with Noah McCardle at the helm under center, who runs the ball very well. They can hand it off to fullback Robbie Hassel, and they got plenty of other playmakers on the outside as well. And that's not taking anything away from Manheim Central, who also sports a great. If you like ground and pound offenses, and you better double buckle your chin strap kind of football. This is what you're going to get on Friday. They run the ball really well with Cody Kegerice at quarterback. Damon Camacho, one of the most explosive tailbacks in the LL, can take it to the house on any play. This is going to be a really, really good football game, and I think Quarryville is going to be rocking. I guess is that a pun? Quarry and rock?
I don't know.
All right. Either way,
I was going to let it go, but that works.
We'll keep it going. But I think that's going to be an electric atmosphere. The Golden Mules trying to get Section 2 outright. That would be a huge accomplishment for them after what their reputation has been for the last 8 years or so. So do you see this being a kind of 3 yards in a cloud of dust kind of game?
Oh, I think we've established that. I think the thing for me, what you just touched upon, is going to be the biggest difference. I mean, you've got that electric atmosphere. Solanco in a position where it really has not been very much before. And how much does that play a factor where you've got a program coming in that has been so experienced in the past with Central, with stuff on the line late in the season, in the playoffs? So if that emotion overtakes the Golden Mules for a little while, of course they can get back on track, but how long might it take them to do so unless they're really locked and ready to go? I think if they're playing their best ball from the start, it's going to be really tough on Central to get back in this game because, again, we established that they both like to run the ball. I mean, there's really no secret when it comes to what Solanco wants to do. It's just a matter of you got to buckle up and stop them, and so far 9 teams have tried and 0 have been successful. So it's going to be a matter of being in a different spot. How do you handle that at home with everything on the line? And if that doesn't throw Solanco off, I think they're going to be able to move on and finish that 10-0 season.
In talking to Manheim Central coach Dave Hahn, I talked to him 2 weeks ago after they came back to defeat Cocalico. He said he's not a real big fire and brimstone coach, but he had to talk to his players at halftime when they were trailing Cocalico, and he brought up all of the former players that used to play at Manheim Central, all of the greats, and all of the great teams, and he said he didn't want those players to let them down. He wanted to keep up the tradition of Manheim Central. So there's plenty for Manheim Central to play for as well, because they're trying to upkeep a tradition that they are the big boy in Section 2, and they have all the trophy case full of accolades. So I mean, there's plenty of motivation for both of these teams. This is going to be a fantastic game. Once again, it's Solanco going for the outright possession of the Section 2 title. Central trying to get a piece of it. Both teams are primed for district playoff runs. So this is a great warm-up for going into it. I mean,
absolutely.
It doesn't get much better.
And the game you brought up against Cocalico, I mean, that serves as a point of experience for the Barons. You just look back, we were down at halftime against a team that likes to run the ball. Again, no secrets. It's a matter of stopping them. Solanco's been at another level, and we saw that when they met the Eagles themselves, but they'll be able to have a point of reference for if things don't go their way early, or even maybe around halftime, that they're able to keep it going. But if they do get that lead, I mean, that experience is going to come into play, and like you said, this should be a barn burner one way or the other. But buckle up, no matter
Absolutely.
what heading into this one.
It's going to be a fun game to watch. Well, that about does it for this edition of the LL Football Preview Show. Week 10 could be the best yet.
I think it will.
It has the potential to be that way. So for updates on all your favorite games, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and enjoy the games this weekend as you have for the last 10 weeks. We'll see you next time.